Hello everyone. Fresh tank, fresh setup, an aquascape in mind. Let's just get right into it. So this aquascape will be mixing both sand and aqua soil. So I started out with the sand because I needed to add a rock there and kind of block off the sections. Also, just for security reasons, I'm using egg crate because I will be adding large rocks, even though it's a flat aquarium and it's snugly secured onto the table. I wanted to have an egg crate so the rocks doesn't scratch or dent the aquarium. I'm also using a little bit of filter floss just to make a barricade between where I want the aqua soil and where I want the sand. So I'm not using too much filter floss in the front of the scape, so you cannot see it, because I don't want people to see my filter floss in the scape. You kind of want your tricks and your kind of cheats, is it a cheat? To be hidden at least. Another tip is also to have more sand, so the sand is taller than the part of aqua soil, which I'm adding in now, because if the sand is taller, the chances that the sand will fall into the aqua soil is better than the other way around. Because, I mean, let's face it everyone, we have all done a really cool aquascape and you had sand and you had aqua soil, and then they mix together and it doesn't look nice. And I kind of want, I mean, this is a high-tech setup, don't get me wrong, but I don't want to make more work for myself than I actually have to. So I'm gonna try that trick. I'm not gonna be adding shrimps here, I think, so that can contribute as well, because they make a lot of mess. They just move everything around regardless. But anyways, here you can see I'm kind of trying to position the rock a little bit better, because when you're adding in both the aqua soil and the sand, it's kind of a position work where you want that rock to be, and you also have to be careful so you don't mix too much in between them or the two different materials together. I'm also trying to make it so it pops up a little bit. It's supposed to look a little bit broken. And I'm adding the other rocks around as well, just on top of the filter floss. And you can always do like I'm doing now. I'm just poking in the filter floss and hiding it in sand. It works really well, and the sand's not gonna go through the filter floss. So that's a real good idea. And also, since the rock is positioned very tall, it's like tilting backwards to the tank. It doesn't matter that the aqua soil is much higher in the background, because it's not gonna fall over the rock and down onto the sand. That's gonna be too much of a distance, and I'm also gonna have larger rocks and plants, so it should be secured after a while. Of course, the plants would need to grow in to kind of hold it all together as well, but that's just a time question of doing aquascaping. So here is another one of my cheats. This is a bio box, so it's basically a filter media in a plastic box, and I thought it would work really well for holding my larger elements like these rocks, because these rocks are quite heavy and I don't want to use more rock than I have to. I mean, it's both economically to do it this way, and I'm hoping for the box to be able to help me a little bit in having better water quality. Also, it works out really nice for supporting the rocks, so this is truly a win-win, and you're not gonna be able to see it afterwards either, so I felt like this is a good tip. There are a lot of things you learn during the hobby and also by watching others. So this was this is actually one of my tips. I'm just gonna claim that right now, because it was just the idea popped into my head. So what I'm doing is I'm adding a little bit more aqua soil to the foreground, and here you want to be a little bit careful, because now you're getting into a place that's going to be very easy to see. So it's going to be very visual. But just adding in the rocks and kind of messing a little bit around the sand, just pushing it. I would rather have sand pushing against the rock and perhaps a little bit under the rock than in front. I'm just gonna use a small pipette that I have just to push. If you can see, it's a little bit dark, but I'm trying to push the sand under the rock so it covers the filter floss and doesn't leave a very big gap for the aqua soil to kind of run over, because as I said, I want to keep them separate. But then again, if you try to mix two things, you're gonna have to expect that it could turn out to be a mess, but I'm trying, and also it looks a little bit natural when you do it this way. So nobody can really see the kind of gap I made. So now it's time to fill up the water, and I'm filling from the sand onto just filter floss again, just to make sure that I'm not stirring up things, because this is a step you want to be careful, trust me. If you just pour the water onto the, let's say, the rocks, because they're gonna just let it flow, then you're gonna get the aqua soil onto the sand. So you want to have the water pushing away from the sand and not the other way around, just to be careful. I mean, yeah, we all hate that when it happens. You make a aquascape and then everything just mixes up. It takes a little bit of time to fill the tank like this, but I mean, it's okay. It's always exciting when you're filling up the tank with, I mean, you have kind of high expectations. At this point, I was really curious to see how the rock would look underneath water, because I just ordered this rock because it looks nice, but I didn't actually check. And voila! We have some lighting. At this point it looks a little bit bright, but that's just because of the light. So here I'm just using an actual paintbrush, a fan brush from paint, just to even out the sand a little bit, and just to brush the sand off of the rocks, because I mean, this is a very pleasing step. You don't have to do it by any means, but it's very pleasing to do these things. And you can see I've also added some smaller rocks. That's just an aquarium gravel, so I just picked out the reddish stones, and I think this rocks looks kind of cool in this setup. I've also made sure that I had the room for the equipment I wanted, because that's another trap. You can easily get lost in hardscaping, and then in the end you're gonna be like, oh, the pump and the heater. Yeah, that's great. So don't go into that trap. And my plan is for them to be hiding behind plants. And I did have a complete vision, and I've ordered like everything at once for the tank. So I had a quite good plan for where to go from this, but the wood pieces was kind of random. But I mean, it just works out, and I did fiddle around a little bit with this, but in the end I decided how I wanted the wood to lay onto the rocks, because I mean, it's not the same if you have a hardscape without some pieces of wood. And I love the dark colors, and this is one of my tips. Leave it like this. If you have the time and you cannot plant right away, or you waited for plants or they're in the mail, turn off the lights, cycle the tank in darkness. I mean, you will have the nutrient boost from the aqua soil, but you won't have algae growth. That's brilliant. So if you do have the time, do this, and you will also have the opportunity for the tannins to leak out of the woods and color the water, and then you do a big water change, and then you're ready for planting. So I hope you enjoyed this part, and hopefully you'll see the next one, because when you start to plant, it gets really nice, and that's when it gets really exciting. So thank you everyone. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.